For more on this, let's welcome in former Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Matthew, good to see you this evening. All right, we've all been waiting for this. Many people were wondering if we would get it today. Hopefully we'll get it tomorrow. But it looks like, and help me understand this, because it looks like this judge and magistrate Reinhart has given his redaction. So the Department of Justice gave him their redactions today. He looked over them, and now he's giving it back to them and says, I'll give you tomorrow at noon to see if you agree with what I have redacted. Is that right?
Well, so it's interesting, and it's good to be with you, Lindsay. What I see in this order is the judge looked at it and heard the arguments that, or kind of what the government had to say about their redactions, and has agreed with it. And I think he's placed the burden on the government to now release it when they're ready. So ultimately we're going to have to hear from the Department of Justice by noon tomorrow, and so it could be at noon, it could be tonight, but we're going to see this affidavit, highly redacted and probably not as helpful as it would otherwise be, but we're going to see it soon.
Okay, so if they give it back to him tomorrow, and either way, it sounds like from your perception of what he wrote, that he will reveal it, that he will unveil this based off of their final suggestion, because he has the ultimate power here, right?
Yeah, he does. And in fact, I don't think there's another step. As I read the order that Judge Reinhart has released, my experience is that the judge has now said, you've presented this redacted agreement or this affidavit, and it's ready to be released based on, and I agree to your redaction. So there's really no argument and no way for this judge to stop it. I'm guessing that the government is preparing to release the affidavit as they had presented to Judge Reinhart.
Okay, so what do we expect? I mean, people have joked that it's going to be it, and we're not really going to get any information from this. But he says in this that he found that the government's burden of showing compelling reason, good cause of sealing the affidavit, it was warranted. He says, I agree with them. He originally was the one who said last week, hey, we need to do this. Do you think that we will get anything out of this at the end of the day?
Well, you're going to have people like me, I'm sure, back on your show telling you what's in between the lines. And because it is, I think, last time I was on your show, I said it's going to look like an Austin Kleon poem where it's, you can't really make it in what's missing. But I think it's going to actually reveal some of the investigation, what they're looking for, why they think it's important. But it's going to take a trained eye to decipher that, because a lot of the facts, the who, what, where, when, and how, are going to be excluded. But I think there's actually going to be something to this document that we should be able to tease a little bit out of.
Okay, well, that's good, because I know a lot of people are looking at. I do want to press you on this, because he said that what will be redacted as well as his investigation strategy and direction. But at the end of the day, like I said, isn't that what you want to know? The strategy and direction, that's what we're looking for here in the affidavit.
You're right. I mean, listen, this isn't going to be the grand reveal of what this investigation is or isn't about. But that being said, I think there's going to be enough in this that people that have dealt in the system understand kind of what this investigation is and isn't about. But, at the same time, this is not, the strategy and direction are ultimately what we want to find out.
Okay, I want to switch a little bit to Trump and how he plays into this. Many people have said, even Alan Dershowitz, who came on our show last week, and he said that he believes that Trump should release the surveillance footage from Mar-a-Lago, that would actually help, that would expose more. If we get the affidavit tomorrow and it has almost nothing in it, what should Trump's next move be?
Well, I think President Trump obviously knows he's done nothing wrong and is really not in jeopardy of ultimately being charged with a crime here. I think the federal government seems to have really got over their skis and been too aggressive in a matter that they could have easily resolved with more negotiations. But President Trump, I'm sure, has good and competent lawyers that are advising him at every step of the way. Obviously, they signaled that they were fine with the affidavit being released, and they probably wanted it to be released because they'd like to see just a little bit more and get the hints. As it relates to the tapes, I think that helps President Trump's case to see how long the FBI, if they were just looking for certain documents and they knew that these documents were where they would be found, I think the 9 hours that the FBI spent at Mar-a-Lago is going to be painfully slow as they go through and rummage through all of President Trump's personal papers and effects. And so I think it's not, obviously those tapes I wouldn't expect to paint the FBI in a good light, because their search was not specifically tailored to get very specific evidence of this alleged, crimes.
Right, and there's a lot of questions around them being in Melania Trump's closet and being in Trump's personal office. Obviously, we've already talked about the passports that they had to give back to him, 3 of his passports that they retrieved. So earlier this week, Trump, his legal team, put in a lawsuit to the Department of Justice saying that they want a special master, somebody who pretty much can be an ombudsman for them and look at some of this material the FBI is going through and say the FBI shouldn't look at it. The judge had said, you have until Friday to give me more reason why you need a special master. What are they looking for here? What reason would be enough to grant Trump's legal team a special master?
Well, obviously they're flying in the dark to some extent. They don't know what was grabbed. And so, having an independent third party that can review these documents to make sure that especially attorney-client privilege and other privileged documents are not reviewed by the government is the most important thing. And I think they're going to have to, maybe show a little more information on what they think specifically were the privileged documents. However, the passports, I think, has always been the roadmap to that they grab too much and outside the search warrant. So that's, I think, going to be the key to their argument.
One final question here, something that Judge Magistrate Reinhart said on Monday that I thought was interesting. So he said once he decides, so this was obviously before today, but he said once he decides what can be redacted and not, he would wait to see if there was any pushback from the Department of Justice or from potentially other forms of government. Do you think that somebody else might reach out in some circuit court and say, hey, we're not happy with this? Is there any reason for concern there?
Yeah, well, the FBI will have talked to their witnesses and their sources and their agents. And, my understanding is they've redacted everything that the judge feels should be redacted and not too much. It's a little bit of, sort of the three bears, where it's, this is just right, these redactions, addressing the issues of the public needs to know and the public's right to know, balanced with the confidentiality and the ability to conduct an investigation without, a real-time, people following along, questioning your every move. So I think, this is, I'm going to come back on and we'll talk more about what the affidavit actually handles and was what could have been redacted. But, I expect that the specifics of the witnesses and who testified as to what, but we could learn a lot about how many people testified, for example, about these documents. So I think it's, there's still much to learn as soon as this affidavit comes out.
I know a lot of people disappointed that we're not seeing it, but tomorrow is coming. Matthew Whitaker, thanks for being with us.
Good to see you.